They call me White Devil, Black Jesus. Heaven closes, hell freezes. It's your girl Aisha, aka Geek XX Chic, and I'm back with another review to Black Lightning. We are on episode 4 of the season, which was called Black Jesus. And it was definitely a deeper episode. All of them are deep, obviously, but I feel like this episode kind of took a little bit of a step back from the heavy violence that we've kind of seen in the first 3 episodes, and we talked a little bit more about the deeper intrinsic problems that the 100 are bringing to Freeland, and it was kind of good. Like, I don't mind the pace change, because as much as it is fun to have all these things happening and have these hard-hitting fight scenes every episode, it's kind of nice to actually have a little bit of exposition and a little bit more storytelling, especially in a show that has been touching on so many deep topics. So definitely a change of pace. I liked it, and I've got some notes here because the things that we did talk about or touched on were kind of big. So why don't we jump into those points right about now? Interesting backstory on Tobias. I did not know he was a politician before all of this happened, so that explains a lot of why he doesn't do a lot of things himself. Obviously, he does get his hands a bit dirty. We saw him, torturing and killing Lala. We saw him, again, kind of manhandling the guy. I'm assuming he was a coroner. So he does do a little bit, but we see he's always kind of telling people to do things. And even in that moment, that whole scene with him beating up the coroner who lied about his police report, he's again deflecting the blame. Lady Eve put it so succinctly in the beginning, where she's like, it looks like you lied on your resume. Like, if you said you killed Black Lightning, it was your responsibility to make sure that bro was dead. Like, it's not the coroner's job to make sure you did your job. You know what I'm saying? So just this whole thing about how now the fact that Black Lightning's still alive is because the coroner lied about cremating him. But it's like, no, dude, if you really killed somebody, he's your arch nemesis, you probably would go and make sure he's dead. But anyways, the whole history and politics definitely explains a lot of the way Tobias operates, the manipulation tactics that he has, but also the fact that he brought in his sister. We got to meet a family member of Tobias's. She's clearly on board with the whole crime thing. But she seems to be a little bit more about masterminding things. And it's interesting because I looked at her and it reminded me of Mariah on Luke Cage, kind of the part that she played kind of to Cottonmouth, right? She's more the person who likes to get, mental and deliberate and do the manipulation as opposed to getting physically, into things with people. So, I don't know, it's very interesting that I've seen more parallels in this episode to Luke Cage than I have before, but I do definitely see that kind of relationship with her and Tobias. So we'll see how long she sticks around and how much of a role she starts to fill. I'm wondering if maybe her showing up now might be something to become, because we got Anissa on her rise to becoming a superhero, but no superhero can exist without having a nemesis, right? And I mean, I suppose Anissa could end up having the same rival as her father, but it's a different generation, and Tobias and Jefferson is old school. Maybe Anissa needs her own arch nemesis, and maybe Tobias' sister might become that person. Who knows? But it's interesting they brought her in. I don't think it would be just for him to ask for advice. I'm thinking she's going to stick around for a while, or maybe it's going to be Lady Eve, who is clearly, like, who does she represent? Right? Because she kept speaking in the we terms, right? When she was talking to Tobias about, we brought you in because you said you killed Black Lightning and we gave you the 100. Who's we? Who are these people that are powerful enough to to just gift wrap a gang in a city to somebody, right? Like, so I'm kind of wondering who Lady Eve works for. I'm going to make the assumption that she's at a higher rank, significantly, than Tobias. And she likes to moonlight, apparently, as a coroner. Not a coroner. The coroners who determines who dies. I can't remember. What are they called? Morticians? Yeah, morticians are the ones that take care of the body. But wait! While we're there, let's just get into what the heck was going on with that body. For real, though. What was that? Like, the first time I saw the mouth move or whatever, I thought maybe, because I know that, you know, it happens that people, you know, depending on how dead they are, they sometimes have reflexes and muscles are moved or tugged at and things could happen. But that person was still alive somehow. There was blinking and breathing. How, Sway? How? How is that possible? I need answers. Is Lady Eve, like, is she a metahuman? Does she have special powers too? What's going on? I need to know. But that freaked me out. I was like, how the hell she be digging out somebody's inside and they still alive? That was scary. Anyway, that was my big WTF moment of the episode for sure. I was like, wait, what? And no explanation. And Tobias did not seem at all scared or perturbed by it, so she's done it before. Anyway, questions. That's a big question mark. Anyone else in the audience there, if you guys know what that's about or how that could possibly happen, please leave your theories in the comments, because I have no clue. Gambi. What's going on, bruv? What's going on, my man? This is now twice that you've lied to my man Jefferson for no good reason. Like, Jefferson's clearly back on board with being Black Lightning. We've seen this, right? He's back. He told Gambi, he's like, yep, I'm wearing the suit. I'm ready to do this. I'm cleaning up the streets. Yet he's kept the fact that Tobias is alive from him now, even though Tobias knows that Jefferson's alive. Well, not Jefferson, but Black Lightning. And now he's hiding the fact that there's another meta in town. Even though I don't think Gambi knows that it's Anissa. Thankfully, she was smart enough to cover her face. But he clearly knows that she's not your normal human. And since this is something he's seen before, why would he not tell... Like, why would he not tell Jefferson that there's another meta in the city? Like, that just seems like vital information for a vigilante, right? So, and then he's going to investigate it himself. So, I don't know. I guess he's going to try to figure out, maybe he suspects. I don't know. I kind of have a theory that maybe Gambi suspects that it could be Anissa, because I can't think that Gambi would not have thought there's a possibility of Jefferson's kids potentially becoming metas, considering that they're his biological children, that they're Jefferson's biological children. I'm also wondering too how the mother hasn't thought about that too. But I guess maybe they, without knowing how Jefferson came about his powers, without knowing anything about Jefferson's parents, we've never heard about Jefferson's parents. Were they in his life? Were they metas too? Those kind of things are important, but I'm getting the feeling that Jefferson maybe didn't know his parents. But either way, I feel like Gambi's probably been thinking that this could happen for a while now, and maybe he's just going to try to confirm his suspicions. But again, I still don't see how he wouldn't talk to Jefferson about that, because if anyone can help Anissa through this, it would be her father, right? So, yeah, that kind of segues right into Anissa and this whole like I called it, right? I called it about 2 episodes ago that she's so strong-minded and she doesn't really think about, like, which is sad because she's clearly very intelligent, but you can tell she doesn't have a lot of forethought yet. And the fact that she went out looking for these drug dealers, like, yes, she's super strong. Yes, she could knock them out or whatever, but obviously we saw, one, she didn't think about the fact that she could kill somebody, right? You're throwing somebody with the force that you're doing there. Of course, you could give them a concussion, you could break their neck, you could crush their rib cage. Like, these are all very real things you could do, because you don't know how much your strength, like, you know, she knows a little bit about her strength, but not enough to know how to control it, clearly. It looks like she goes all or nothing, right? And also just, I don't think she's bulletproof. But again, someone mentioned, I think in the comments, that she might be able to manipulate her density. So maybe it's not necessarily super strength so much as the fact that she can make herself more dense. So she needs to stop kind of just going out and thinking she can take on the world just because she can throw a hard punch, right? Or what if she came up against somebody who actually knew martial arts or knew how to block something? Like, maybe they wouldn't even been there for her punch and would have ended up kicking her in the head or doing something else, right? So I just need Anissa to start calming down, and I feel like her dad would be the best person to be able to talk to her about the enthusiasm of having new powers, but not going ham with it. But the only thing I can think of is that maybe Gambi is hoping that if he figures out that Anissa got the powers first, that he'll be able to groom her and not have Jefferson, because I can't see Jefferson wanting Anissa to jump into the vigilante game with him. And Gambi is clearly all about just doing whatever he can to get metas out there fighting the 100. So I think that he's probably thinking, well, if this is another meta and I can train them and get them to do what I want, then it's my backup plan if Jefferson decides to back out for another 9 years. I am more interested to see more of Gambi's story, though. We don't really know much more about him outside of the fact that he's obviously a tech genius and that he knows Jefferson. Finally, the stuff about the drugs, this is probably the heaviest part of the episode for me anyways, with the whole thing with Bernard and, I'm sorry, I keep calling him Bernard, that's the British way of saying it, Bernard, with him taking these drugs and, you know, asking for the second chance and everyone kind of jumping to give it to him. This is definitely a slippery slope. You know, it kind of goes to the same thing with 2-Bit too, with him, you know, begging Black Lightning not to call the cops and have him thrown into jail for infraction, for, you know, actually violating his parole, right? I completely understand that Black people, and particularly Black men in America, are ridiculously unfairly treated in the justice system. I know that statistically they get longer sentences and far worse you know, punishments than their white counterparts for the exact same crimes. I get that, and I completely appreciate that it's not fair that they have to go through this. But, however, I'm sorry, but crime is not the answer. It's not your only choice. It is a choice, and for some it may seem like an easier choice, but it is not the only choice. There's so many people out there who have scraped and worked, and whether it's, you know, cleaning toilets, sweeping floors, you know, working 4 and 5 jobs, doing that kind of stuff to keep afloat, you don't have to turn to a life of crime. And I'm sorry, there's just nothing to me that justifies. I mean, it's one thing if he was like, well, I'm stealing stuff to keep my family fed because I can't afford to give them food or give them clothes. But he's selling drugs that he knows are killing people. And he's just saying, that's not my problem because I'm taking care of my family. Oh, and please don't put me back in jail because I don't think I deserve 30 years for, how did he say, 6 kids who OD'd already? Like, that's not cool. Like, I'm sorry, I don't think that's justification. And I mean, sorry, bro. This is your 3rd strike. It wasn't even his 1st strike, his 3rd. He's done this already. He's already screwed up 2 times before, which says he clearly does not think that the law is anything he needs to follow. So, no, sorry, 2-Bit. I think your butt should go back to prison because clearly you haven't learned anything. The fact that you're even out on parole is a miracle. And you're squandering that because you think that that's the right that you have. Like, it's just, it's a very touchy subject, and I'm sorry if there are people out there who just, you know, who are upset by what I say. I'm not trying to say this to be upsetting. I'm simply stating my viewpoint on the matter, and I just don't think that in that situation where there was a clear choice by 2-Bit to do this, and when he talked to Jefferson, he made it clearly he had no intent to stop. That to me says, well, you don't care about going to jail then, clearly, because you're doing something you know is illegal. And you just simply think that it's, you know, you don't deserve to pay the consequences of breaking the law, and that's just not true. Conversely, with Bernard, I get it. Believe me, I get the whole thing about the good kid who makes a bad choice, right? Should that kid have to suffer with his entire future because he made a bad choice? Not necessarily. However, Bernard is clearly a bright student. He's smart, and he knew, especially in that school, he knew that doing drugs just is, there's no upside to doing it, that it was not the smart thing to do, that is a stupid thing to do. He chose to do it anyway. Now, yes, I get it. This drug was stronger than most. It was, you know, most cases, things like this don't happen. The whole point is he took a gamble. Knowingly knew the risks, and he took the gamble. And sometimes you need to pay for those types of mistakes to learn something, to do better. And I knew it. I knew the second that they were like, no, you're not getting expelled. I'm like, Bernard is going to go right back. And he's going to go back to them drugs. And not just because this stuff is super addictive. I mean, homie didn't even want to roll on his dealer when his future depended on it. That tells you where his mind was at. Like, no appreciation, no actual understanding of how deep his trouble was at that point. And that's why I say, unfortunately, sometimes these kids might have to suffer some consequences, like not getting into the college of their dreams because they made a decision that had dire consequences. Weigh that out millions of children, including black children, every day make the choice not to do things like this because they know that their future is the cost and they're not willing to pay that. Sometimes people got to learn the hard way. I'm sorry. Like, that's just what I find, that when you give people too many breaks, they don't always appreciate just how fortunate they are or the sacrifices that were made to get them to where they are. And I think sadly that was the case with Bernard. Anyways, that was just kind of the heavier topic that was kind of touched on, and I just put, that's my 2 cents. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm simply, and I've never personally had to deal with addiction. So again, I am talking from a place of ignorance. That's just kind of how I see it as far as decision making. And please, if you guys want to talk about this in the comments, I think this is a really good thing just to have good conversations about, because it is a huge problem in the global community. Anyways, that's it for the heavy stuff. I really liked this episode as I did the other ones. Like I said, the pacing was a little bit different, but I really enjoyed it. I still think this is a great show, and I think it is definitely just killing it every single week. And I'm very interested to see how things are going to go forward. I want to know whether or not Gambi is going to discover Anissa, and I'm also going to be a little bit interested in whether or not Khalil's going to fall under the spell of this whole thing with Tobias and turn on Black Lightning and potentially get the community turning against Black Lightning. But let's hope that doesn't happen for a while, because I really like the fact that everyone's kind of my-manning him right now. What did you guys think of this episode? Do you think it was good, or did you not like the change of pace? And also, what do you think is going to happen to Anissa going forward? Do you think Gambi's going to figure her out, or maybe she's going to go to Gambi? Does she even know about Gambi? Leave your comments below. I'd love to read them. And if you like this video, guys, please click the like button. If you want to see more from this geeky face, please click subscribe. Until next time.